Zambia has 73 different ethnic groups in it. That's right, 73. So sit back, relax. On this video, we're gonna go over some of the important ethnic groups in Zambia you should know about. All right, and we are back. All right, now on this video, we're gonna talk about the different ethnic groups of Zambia. Now, what I wanna do going forward is that anytime I post any travel videos on a different country in Africa or the diaspora, I do want to do these videos about the different ethnic groups of that particular country. And I wanna do it for several different reasons. One, when you do travel to these countries, it helps you understand the people and the culture a lot more. Number two, a lot of these cultures and their traditions and how they get down is really, really fascinating. And it's really cool to learn, to be honest with you. And number three, it helps you a lot with networking when you're in these different countries. I mean, it goes a long way with people when you know a little bit about their culture and how they get down, and you're able to provide some type of insight. Now, as always, when we talk about the continent of Africa, I don't want you guys to look at the continent of Africa as it is today with the 54 countries of Africa. Instead, I always like to tell people to look at Africa pre-colonization, when you had a lot of different independent nations and kingdoms and empires all over the place. And colonization forced a lot of these different kingdoms, groups of people, independent nations into artificial borders that we know today as the 54 countries of Africa. And what they end up doing is forcing a lot of these independent nations and kingdoms into the same borders, into the same nations that we know today as the 54 countries of Africa. And so when you look at all these different countries, many of them have dozens and dozens of different ethnic groups in them. And Zambia is no different. Zambia has 73 different ethnic groups, and they all live in harmony together. All right, now before I get into some of the more well-known ethnic groups of Zambia, there are some commonalities that you'll typically find with a lot of different ethnic groups in Zambia. One of which is where they originated from, okay? Now, a lot of these ethnic groups in Zambia actually originally originated from the area today known as Nigeria and Cameroon. And then these groups migrated to present-day Democratic Republic of Congo. And during the Bantu Migration, a lot of these different ethnic groups migrated to present-day Zambia. That doesn't say that all the ethnic groups in Zambia are that way, but many of them that we're going to discuss did migrate to Zambia, a part of the Bantu migration. Now, one other commonality that you'll see with a lot of different ethnic groups in Zambia is that it lies amongst, well, I would say what makes Zambia interesting is that it lies amongst the matrilineal belt of Africa. This is an area in southern part of the continent of Africa where you'll find many ethnic groups that are matrilineal, meaning that inheritance and royal blood doesn't pass through the descendants of the men in society, but rather it passes through the women. Now, I'm going to go into more details about a matrilineal society when we talk about Ghana's Akan culture. But for right now, just know that with matrilineal societies, just know that royal blood or inheritance doesn't necessarily pass through the men in society. All that type of stuff passes through the women. And many ethnic groups in Zambia are matrilineal. All right, so let's get into at least a few other different ethnic groups. And listen, if I miss anything or if there's any other type of interesting ethnic groups, please feel free to comment them in the comment section below. All right, and let's get to it. All right, now the first group of people in Zambia that we want to discuss is the Bemba People. Now, the Bemba People make up about 21% of Zambia's population. Now, they are mainly concentrated in the northern parts of Zambia. And as I mentioned before, they migrated to Zambia about 500 years ago or so during the Bantu migration. The language they speak is called Chibemba, and it's spoken at about 33% of the Zambian population. Now, like many of the different ethnic groups in Zambia, the Bembas have their own festivals, their own traditional festivals that are really exciting to attend. For example, they do have one of their annual festivals where they do recreate the whole migration into Zambia. And during this festival, their chief is carried on a throne made of paper mache. It's like a crocodile made of paper mache. And there's a lot of drumming and there's a lot of dancing. And of course, there's traditional foods, etc. during this ceremony. Like many other different ethnic groups in Zambia, they are matrilineal. And their current paramount chief is Kenyatta Manga II. Now, the next ethnic group we want to discuss is the Tonga people, and they're also sometimes referred to as Batunga. Now, when I say the Tonga people of Zambia, I don't want you to get confused with the Tonga people that live in, I think, Fiji and Asia Pacific. These are the people living in Zambia called the Tonga people, and they make up about 14% of the population in Zambia. Now, the Tonga people are mainly concentrated in the southern and western provinces of Zambia, but they're also located in northern Zimbabwe, and a few of them are in Mozambique as well. Now, unlike a lot of the different ethnic groups in Zambia, the Tonga didn't migrate as part of the Bantu Migration in the 15th and 17th centuries, or as a part of any other type of migration. They are considered one of the earliest settlers in Zambia, or at least the earliest Bantu settlers in Zambia. They speak the language Chitonga, and the name Tonga itself actually means independent because unlike many pre-colonial African nations, the Tonga people didn't have a king or paramount chief or a centralized authority. They had a more decentralized government with local priests in pre-colonial times. Also in pre-colonial times, the Tonga were mainly known as a major trading hub or trading center with routes end up going into India, China, Middle East, etc. All right, next we have the Chewa people, and they make up about 7% of the population in Zambia. And like the Bemba people and many other ethnic groups in Zambia, they also migrated to Zambia during the Bantu Migration from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Now, the Chewas are located mainly in the southern parts of Zambia. The Chewa are matrilineal, and they're broken down into different clans which have different roles throughout society. For example, one clan tends to be kings, aristocrats, and elites, while another clan tends to be known for their healing and magic. The Chewa also have their own secret society called Nyao, and you can only get into it if you are initiated in. The Nyao are known for their famous mask, and they're also known for their dances, which are specific to the mask they are wearing and the characters in mythology that they're portraying. All right, next on the list we have the Lozi people. Now, the Lozi people are located mainly on the western part of Zambia. All right. Now, they do have their own mythology of how they migrated to or how they came about to present-day Zambia, but some people believe that they came to Zambia, like many other ethnic groups, as a part of the Bantu Migration. Now, they do have a king, and their king is called the Latunga, which I love to say, by the way. Their culture is heavily influenced by the flood cycles of the Zambezi River, and they have the Kuomboka Festival, which I covered in the last video, which celebrates the migration to higher grounds each year due to the floods of the Zambezi River. Now, the one thing that caught my eye of the Kuomboka Festival is that the king of the Lozi wears a black and gold British Admiral uniform. This is a tradition as the Lozi people and their land was once a protectorate of the British. In the 1800s, their leaders signed over mining rights of resources to Cecil Rhodes companies and the British in exchange for British protection and partnership. As a gift of the treaty signed between the Lozi people and Queen Victoria, the British gave the Latunga an admiral uniform that is still worn to this day during the Kuomboka Festival. All right, next on the list is the Luvale people, and they're mainly concentrated in the northwestern part of Zambia. And like many other ethnic groups in Zambia, they migrated to Zambia as part of the Bantu Migration as well from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The Luvale, they are a matrilineal group as well. The Luvale are known for their Makishi dancers. The Makishi represent the spirits of our ancestors who returned to Earth and act as a link between the living, the dead, and higher beings. The Makishi masquerades are performed at ceremonies like the Mukanda, which is an annual ritual for boys between the ages of 8 to 12 to initiate them into manhood. During pre-colonial times, the Luvale didn't have a paramount chief. They had a lot of local chiefs, but now they have a paramount chief called Chief Ndungu. The Luvale have 13 clans, but only one person from the clan called Kungu can inherit the throne, and they have to be the child of a female chief. All right, next on the list is the Ngoni people. Now, the Ngoni people are interesting because unlike many other ethnic groups like the Bemba people, etc., they didn't come to Zambia via the Bantu migration, and they weren't in present-day Zambia before the Bantu migration. The Ngonis came up to Zambia and also four other different Southern African nations via South Africa, Zululand to be specific. Now, the Ngonis got pushed out of South Africa during the Mfukani. And some of y'all looking like, well, what is the Mfukani? The Mfukani was in the early 1800s, and it was a time period of warfare when King Shaka Zulu introduced warfare techniques that the southern parts of Africa had never seen before. This caused a lot of migration of different ethnic groups that were fleeing all of this warfare, and this lasted for decades and really forever changed the culture and ethnic makeup of southern and eastern parts of Africa. Now, one of the groups of people that migrated during the Mfukani were the Ngoni people. Now, the Ngoni people were known for being warriors, and also they used to kind of plunder, farmlands as well. So when they did migrate north, they caused a lot of upheaval as well because they were kind of deboing people along the way using warfare techniques that they had learned from the Zulus. Now, it's also important to note that they are kind of close relatives to the Zulu. Culturally, they're a little bit different than some of the other ethnic groups in Zambia, although throughout time they've kind of merged a little bit of the languages and things like that with some of the other ethnic groups that are nearby. Last but not least, we have the Kaonde people that make up about 4% of the population in Zambia, and they're located in the northwestern part of Zambia. Now, in pre-colonial times, they were unique in that they made houses called lukelo, which are made of termite mounds and dried grass. And they also have certain houses that were made entirely out of grass. Their economy in pre-colonial times were centered around copper mining, and traditionally, like some of the other different ethnic groups in Zambia, they practiced their own form of initiation with the teenage women and men to introduce them into adulthood and to also get them prepared for marriage. All right, that concludes at least 6 or 7 different ethnic groups in Zambia. As I mentioned before, there are literally 67 other different ethnic groups. There's 73 different languages in Zambia and different ethnic groups. And so when you do go there, it's just good to just pick up on at least some of the different languages and also just to really immerse yourself in the culture. And as I mentioned on the last video, if you can really go to some of these different local traditional festivals, it will make your experience in Zambia that much better. All right, thank you guys for watching this video. And as always, if this is your first time watching this channel, please don't forget to subscribe and also like this video. And I'll holler at you guys on the next video.